Okay, so we obviously cannot go so far as to suggest that Loretta Abbess, Stanley Walstad, Fransve was openly committing fraud. We can't say that. What we can confirm to you, however, is that if she was doing that, breaking the law and committing fraud is something that Lori's family is kind of historically known for. They kind of arrived into this country doing just that. You see, Lori Fransve, like I said, was born Loretta Abbess. She was named after her Syrian grandmother, Loretta Abbess. I want to sear into your mind right now that the Abbess family history is steep in gambling and casinos. All about gambling and casinos specifically. As we go along in this series, the history and the present of gambling casinos is going to become increasingly relevant. So let's bring in the OG Loretta Abbess, Erika's great-grandmother who died in 1990, who was just constantly being arrested for running illegal slot machines. Okay, she came over from Syria and she got to work bringing filth and fraud in Pennsylvania. You check out this article from 1941 where she testifies that she ran numbers. It says Loretta Abbess of Washington, Thomas Roberts, whatever, testified that they engaged in the numbers business and had been arrested on numerous occasions. They explained their role in the numbers lottery without giving any direct testimony against the defendants. Okay, here's another one. We could keep going, but here's another article from 1944 where she pleads guilty to a lottery charge. It was before the court. She wasn't lying. She's always arrested on a lottery charge. The state police had a search warrant, and when they entered her house, they found a quantity of number slips. She was sentenced to pay the cost and $200 or 5 months in the county jail. Like I said, this was a family thing. Her husband was Mason Abbess, and he was magnificently fraudulent. I'm talking high-speed chases down the highway, lottery tickets blowing in the wind. Check out this article from 1935, and it tells us that he was overtaken in his automobile after a chase of several miles after he had failed to obey the officer's order to stop. Yes, Mason Abbess was arrested yesterday by County Detective Frank Krebs. Before an alderman, he was held for court in default of a $1,000 bond on a charge of conducting a lottery and was fined $10 and costs for refusing to stop when ordered to do so by a uniformed officer. During the race along the National Pike, which ended in West Alexander, Abbess is alleged to have thrown a package of 100 lottery tickets from his car. Officers recovered the tickets and are holding them as evidence. Yes. Lottery, gambling, slot machines. Again, sear that into your mind. Not just on Erika's maternal side of the family, not just the Abbess side, but also the Swedish side, the Fransve side. The Swedish side of the family, I will be clear, there's a notable difference. It seems like they've been involved legally. Carl Kenneth Fransve is Erika's paternal grandfather. Okay, he participated extensively in horse racing. More crucially, though, he was an executive at the American Banknote Company in Illinois. This is the company that was responsible for printing lottery tickets. It's a big contract, a big deal. Here he is in a newspaper in 1974 doing just that. It reads, printing began this week on the first Illinois state lottery tickets. Up to 10,000 agents. It tells us at the bottom there that Kent Fransve of the American Banknote Company, the printer, examines the first tickets of the initial press run. Let's stick with Grandpa Carl Kenneth Fransve for a little bit because he is, by all accounts, obviously Swedish. Erika herself is therefore Syrian Lebanese on her mother's side and Swedish on her father's side. So something which struck me as immediately odd about Erika is just how deeply she identifies as Swedish despite her public insistence that she was raised by a quote-unquote single mother. Think about that just from a social perspective. If Erika was indeed raised by a single mother, wouldn't you expect her to identify more deeply with those Lebanese Syrian roots, right? You might even understand it if she resented her Swedish roots. Like, my dad didn't do anything, and so I'm not even doing anything with the Swedes. I don't even like being Swedish. To the contrary, Erika feels so deeply attached to her Scandinavian roots that in 2019, she moved to begin the process of obtaining her dual citizenship. She posted this herself, where she is, dual citizenship commenced. Okay. Maybe you're thinking logically, well, she loves her grandpa. I had a fantastic grandpa. I get that. I should mention she comes from a very long line of the Swedish Freemasons. She definitively was close to her grandfather. We know this because she posts about him many, many times over the years, referring to him affectionately as her morfar. Saw this over and over again. You'll just see posts of him and how much she loves him. She even mentioned her grandmother there. That's his wife, Elaine. And she says she is my angel in heaven, but I usually call her Mormor. So that's her morfar and her mormor. Show you another post, just her grandfather, where she's going to talk about reflecting upon losing him in 2016. She's posting this, and she, again, is going to address him as her morfar. This appears to be another wrinkle. You see, I received a flurry of emails from our fans in Sweden about this particular post, and they did not like this post. And what they told me about it, they didn't like about it, made me reconsider things. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but they said, Candace, Erika is referring to her grandfather as her morfar. I was like, okay. So I looked it up. It means grandfather in Swedish. Like maybe she doesn't, but it's cute. Okay. Maybe she's not fluent, but it's cute. And then they explained it to me a little further. They said, no, Candace, the Swedish language is quite literal here. Morfar quite literally translates into mother's father, morfar. And farfar quite literally translates into father's father. We have different words for these things. These have entirely different meanings. You would never call your father's mother your morfar. You would never call, that's what she's doing. She's calling him her morfar. That is Erika's farfar. If Kent is her father, her father's father is her farfar. She said, a woman emailed this, she said, no Swedish grandfather would ever allow you to refer to him as morfar if he was not actually your morfar, okay? If he was your farfar, he'd say, very cute, I'm your farfar, let's get that straight. This would be something akin to being someone's grandfather and allowing them to call you uncle. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. Words have meaning. So why is her very Swedish grandfather, so Swedish, this line of Freemasons, Masons Swedish, allowing Erika to call him my mother's father? Lori's father? No, that's not Lori's father. What's going on here? This is an incredibly interesting wrinkle, which brings us to a point where we should introduce you to the family tree so you can just kind of see what's going on here, because this morfar farfar scandal troubles me deeply. Is Erika lying? Is she mistaking? Is she making a mistake at all? Or is she accidentally actually trying to tell us the truth? Let's take a look at some other interesting tidbits. On March 21st of 2019, Erika visits with Charlie, she's in Jerusalem with Charlie, what is known as Zion's Gate in Jerusalem. She posts a picture with a pretty curious caption. It reads in part, meet Darla, a Romanian Jew that now calls Israel home. She was sitting by my family's dedication sign for restoring the Zion Gate in Jerusalem. Oh. What? Why is Erika describing the Zion's Gate as her family's dedication? Speaking of which, why does her one-time roommate, Nicole Rothstein, allege that half of their family, referring to her and Erika's family, is Jewish? Doesn't make sense. She also claimed that after Charlie's assassination, that Erika, she was online going back and forth with people, that Erika was her best friend and her cousin. Nicole Rothstein said this. Now, I want to be clear, the Rothstein family, the Zion's Gate is their dedication. Nicole wouldn't be lying if she posted that it was her family's dedication, but Erika? Also, how did Erika and Nicole Rothstein get so close? Remember, Erika presents that she was raised by a single mother on the Lebanese side. If Erika is telling the truth about her paternity, then Nicole Rothstein, I want you to understand who this would be to her. Nicole Rothstein, it's going to sound ridiculous, but this is the reality if Erika's telling the truth. Nicole Rothstein would be Erika's father's, sister's, husband's, previous wife's daughter's daughter. In other words, zero blood relation, not even kind of related, kind of crazy. You would even call each other cousins. People do that. It's cool. It's my cousins, my cousin. Okay, cool. Erika goes a little further, though. Erika also posted a lovely tribute to Alan Rothstein, Nicole's father, online. She calls him uncle. Uncle? Whoa, whoa, whoa. If Erika's telling the truth about who her parents are to Erika, that would be her father's sister's husband's previous wife's daughter's husband. Suffice it to say, again, absolutely zero blood relation, and yet Erika is extraordinarily close to him as well. Now, we can show you on the family chart just how removed this is. It's insane. Okay, but we actually couldn't even fit it. It's so far removed. So you've got her aunt, Carla, is married to a guy named Jack, but Jack was also previously married to somebody else, which you see there named Edna. And this is Edna and Jack's line. This has nothing to do with Erika Fransve. Again, how did she get so close to these people? Why is she referring to them as her family and declaring that Zion's Gate, which is actually their family's dedication, which has nothing to do with her aunt Carla, why is she saying that that's her family's dedication? That makes no sense. I'm struck by this. We could imagine how it could make sense. Now, again, we're imagining here. We're trying to make sense of the things that Erika is saying. I could imagine a very easy way it could actually make sense. Her closeness to the Rothsteins, her dedication to Jerusalem, if and only if we take Erika literally when she says morfar. Let's assume that Grandpa Carl is indeed her mother's father. That would mean, well, obviously, Lori's wouldn't be her mother. It would also mean that Kent, just by nature of him being a man, is not her father. We're looking for her mother's father. So we have to start looking at Kent's siblings that are females. That would give us only 3 options. We can bring this back up. One of Kent's sisters would be my first pick. Again, we're in conspiracy land here, but I'd go with Carla because she's married to Jack Solomon, and that is Jack Solomon's dedication. Carla wasn't even married to Jack until 2002. She just jumped in and was like, this is my whole family and my family's dedication. No. But if Carla, her mother's father, if her mother was Carla, actually it would all make sense. Solomon is the very man who financed the restoration of Zion's Gate in Jerusalem. If Jack Solomon was her father, then a co-Rothstein would indeed be her blood relative cousin. But again, that's purely speculation. We don't have to go into speculation. Let's give you the facts more about Jack Solomon. What is factual is that Jack Solomon eventually marries Carla Fransve in 2002. And there are also some other really interesting facts about Jack. Jack and Erika's mommy aunt, I don't know, Carla, live in Utah. He graduated from what is today known as Utah Valley University. He's very involved in the university. It was formerly known as Utah Valley State College when he graduated from there. He also created on their campus the Center for Jewish Studies. I mean, at the very least, you'd think with all of the money that he poured into that university, he might be able to call someone to get us more footage of Tyler Robinson. Or Carla. How about Carla? She's married to the man. She could have maybe, in my imagination, made it to the hospital when Charlie was shot and killed. I mean, why did none of them make it to the hospital? They're all so nearby. She still lives in Utah. This happened in their backyard. Their family has a lot of power at UVU. Why not Auntie Carla rather than Stacey Sheridan accompanying you onto Air Force Two as your husband's body is escorted to Arizona? Jack Solomon was also a professor at BYU in political science. He's the former director of the university's Jerusalem Center. He also served on the Center for Jewish Studies on the board at UVU. Zion's Gate, like I said, is his dedication. And if you're wondering how Jack got so rich, it's because back in 1968, Jack and his business partner, a man named Norman Vance, began a company called Advanced Patent Technology. That company would go on to manufacture slot machines. You got it. Slot machines. It's just amazing. It's like everyone is involved in gambling. Per his bio, in 1974, Jack gathered more than $5 million to purchase United Coin, the manufacturer of slot machines and the holder of a profitable Southern Nevada slot machine routes. In 1979, they announced plans for the Colorado Bell Hotel and Casino in Laughlin, Nevada, the first of a series of hotels to be built in the Las Vegas area. They had a lot of power in that area. Where were they? I don't know. It's an interesting connection. I am marking that for all of the YouTubers who are interested in investigation. the gambling thing keeps coming up.